This is the topical knowledge video for Module 9, focusing on project costs. Managing project costs and construction costs to successfully get a design built is one of the greatest challenges an architect may face. Even a great design can become not so great when it goes over budget in ways that cannot be managed. Cost management is exceptionally important in professional practice, and yet at the same time, it's an exceptionally difficult task because architects have little to no direct control over the costs. As we've seen from reviewing the B101 contract in Module 5, binding cost management provisions are present throughout the document. We, as architects, are responsible for delivering a design that is within the budget allocated by the client. In Module 6, we looked at project process as an iterative information development process, which is structured around managing cost through each phase of the project lifecycle. In Module 7, we looked at various project delivery methods as process overlays, which restructure the project process baseline, which is established in the B101 contract. The decision to utilize one of these alternate project delivery methods may be driven by an attempt to provide better methods for managing cost. The focus of this module, Module 9, is understanding the various types of cost involved in construction projects and how they're generated and manipulated. In this module, we also cover how to deal with the obvious uncertainties of estimating something as complex as a building so far in advance of contractor pricing using contingencies. Successful cost management is based on a fluid working knowledge of these concepts. And this knowledge directly supports the topics of the subsequent modules, such as project management. As a part of your required reading for this week, we've shared an example of a project budget, and we'll go over that together now. I'll share my screen. This overall project budget is made up of the direct construction expenses, or the construction budget, as well as other applicable project expenses such as design and engineering fees, surveys, soil borings, zoning fees, plan review fees, environmental fees, and potential remediation, and possibly, most importantly, the contingency. You'll notice that contingency shows up in both the design costs here and in the construction costs here. This is intentional and important. Good practice dictates that a contingency be set aside for the unknowns or undefined aspects of a project. This may be sizable in the earliest phases of a project design process, but may be reduced at each design phase until it is zeroed out or close to zero at the completion of the construction documentation, as basically all aspects of the project design has been defined and documented at that point. Depending on the client type, and if the specific budget has been established for the project, you want to ensure that the client is making the most of the money they have and getting the most building they can for the budget they have to work with. This is why that design contingency may be lowered significantly or zeroed out once the design on the project is effectively complete. However, the construction contingency is important to maintain going into the construction process. This part of the budget is set aside for unseen expenses that come up as a part of the construction process. Other construction expenses include permits and equipment needed to complete the construction work, as well as money set aside for the construction team's targeted overhead and profit, which is this OH&P line item. The majority of the other project expenses itself are classified under construction, are the cost of the materials and the labor that goes into the building. These building expenses are then most commonly broken down into more detail, often by the division of the scope of work that frequently may align with the different divisions present in the project specifications. So all of these elements of the project work are broken down in further detail as we get further into the construction budget. A third set of expenses on a project Aside from the design and construction expenses are the owner expenses. This includes things like the cost of purchasing land for the project if it's not already owned, as well as furniture and equipment that go into the completed building, potential moving expenses, and any other owner costs to effectively operate and manage the project from their end. For example, with a university project, owner costs might include an allocation dedicated to the time of the faculty and staff who are involved in the project, including any internal A&E teams or project managers on the project. The owners also have their own contingencies allocated as a part of the budget. So the contingency shows up a third time here. Much like the other two contingencies discussed, this provides a buffer for any unforeseen expenses on the client side, or gives them some wiggle room to make small changes during the construction process. It's important to understand that these three pieces together, the design, owner, and construction costs, all make up a total project budget or project cost. And the difference between that and the construction cost alone, and both are often referred to in the profession. So when you hear either, it's important to be able to dictate and understand the difference between the two, whether we're talking about an overall project budget and project cost, or about the construction cost of the work and the actual building.